Chapter 101. As Yudhir lowered his arm, Kishir, who had risen from his place, approached and deftly unbuttoned Yudhir's uniform and even the inner shirt without hesitation. Feeling a touch that was unusually practiced for a prince who rarely dressed himself, Yudhir felt slightly strange. It wasn't that he had never undressed in front of someone or been undressed, but he realized that this was the first time someone else had undressed him in this manner. What's more, the person doing it was Kishir Lahore. Despite spending countless nights with him in his previous life, it was an unfamiliar experience he had never encountered. Done. With the last button undone, Kishir stepped back nonchalantly, and a faint fragrance wafted from him. It was a subtle scent, different from the perfume he had given off when Yudhir had came to decide whether to go to the Shin or Sil division. Yudhir was momentarily mesmerized by the scent, then shook his head and opened his mouth. "You are adept at dressing and undressing." "Well, yes, I think everyone should agree that I'm probably the prince who can unbutton and button up the fastest in the 1,000-year history of the Ore Empire." "Did you practice?" "Practice? Should I say?" Kishir, about to answer, faded his words for a moment after slightly lifting one corner of his mouth, only to lower it again. "Well, that's not the most important issue right now. Now, show me how much you have burned." Yudhir slowly took off his shirt and gloves. Looking at his right arm, from which a dull pain was emerging, Kishir's sharp gaze went towards the violet spot spreading across the bandaged left forearm and shoulder. It's hard to call a red spot at this point. As he watched the color of the spot darken almost to black, Kishir murmured softly. His voice was heavier than usual. "Is it still hurting?" "Answer truthfully, regardless of whether it's bearable or not." As if he had guessed what Yudhir would answer by his expression, Kishir quickly added to his question. Yudhir closed his mouth hesitantly, then opened it again. It felt as if his thoughts had been read, because he was about to answer exactly as Kishir had predicted if he hadn't added that comment. "It hurts." "To what extent?" Kishir asked back, like a doctor questioning a patient. "As you can see, it's not severe enough to interfere with conversation, but occasionally it hurts as if I have been struck by lightning." "Occasionally, you say? Does that mean it's periodic or it's intermittent?" "I'm not sure what triggers a sudden increase in pain." "Intermittent, huh?" As Kishir muttered to himself, lost in thought, he tapped his fingers against his knee. At that moment, his faithful adjutant appeared, carrying several items, and the conversation between the two was temporarily put on hold. "That's a purification stone and a holy seal used in the temple. And there's more." What Nathan had bought was various tools used by the priests of the temple and the sun god. Most of them were used for purification, but there were also items used for healing or enhancing divine power. As he carefully piled the items on the table to prevent them from collapsing, Kishir picked up one of the purification stones as he had been waiting. The purification stone was known to be particularly good at cleansing impurities. It was created by imbuing a transparent magic stone, known for its cleansing properties, with a hint of divine power. Most of them had a white hue with the cloudiness, resembling milk diluted in water, indicating an inferior quality product. The cleaner and more transparent the white light is emitted, the more superior the stone was to be considered. And of course, the purification stone in Kishir's hand was a superior product, shining like a top grade gemstone. Even if they didn't know, a purification stone of that quality would have the same value as a chunk of gold of the same weight. It was impressive that Nathan had managed to acquire enough to fill the table in such a short amount of time. But it was equally astonishing that Kishir had paid the price for them. Yether was genuinely surprised by the fact that Kishir had prepared so much for his treatment. As soon as I received the letter, I ordered everything that could help with cleansing and healing from the temple. It seemed difficult to solve with my power alone, Kishir quietly explained, noticing Yether's gaze fixed on the purification stone. It seems quite expensive. Compared to the burden of using my strength directly, it's cheap. Wouldn't it have been better to kidnap a priest? One must be cautious when increasing the number of those who know a secret. In Kishir's words, Yether realized that he did not see the disclosure of his secret to Gakane and Devron positively. I had no choice. I know, I trust that Gakane Bulanwar and Devron Hartud aren't one to easily speak. However, not everyone would be like that. Kishir's red eyes silently conveyed such meaning. I don't intend to continue this way. There is a need to hear the opinion of your expert. However, it may take some time to find someone who is tight-lipped and experienced. So, until then, let's try to minimize the need for treatment. The pressure was even greater than before, given that he had bought enough purification stones to buy a mansion and still have leftovers. The atmosphere around Kishir softened when Yether obediently nodded. Now, let's begin. Could you extend your arm? As Yether reached out his hand, Kishir placed a purification stone on the back of it. At the same moment, a white light burst from Kishir's hand and began to absorb into Yether's skin through the purification stone. Ah! Yether felt a tingling sensation, as if his shoulder was being prickled with needles. As he clenched his teeth and took slow, deep breaths, he saw the previously translucent magic stone gradually darken to a grey hue. Not much time passed before Kishir removed the purification stone, which had become an ordinary stone, and placed it aside. Luckily, there seems to be an effect. As Kishir said, there was a change. The range of Yether's shoulder that had turned pale had reduced compared to before the purification stone touched it. However, the problem was that the reduction was only about the size of a finger joint. However, the effect seems less than anticipated. We might run out of the prepared purification stones at this rate. As Nathan, standing behind them, quietly responded, Kishir nodded and picked up a symbol of the sun god from among the piled objects. The divine symbol, adorned with 12 radical spears of gold and silver of varying lengths encircling a red ruby, exuded a sanctity that was entirely different from the ordinary wooden ones commoners would carry around. It was as luxurious item that seemed fitting for a pope to carry. Surely he wouldn't give me such a flashy item, thought Yether. Perhaps noticing Yether's apprehensive glance at the divine symbol, Kishir chuckled softly. Don't worry, it's my job to handle this. That's a relief. This divine symbol was created with blessing bestowed directly by the 45th Pope, known for his particularly strong divine power. It's a good medium to amplify divine power. Kishir worn the gold coin connected to the holy symbol around his hand and lifted another purification stone. The second stone that touched the back of Yudhir's hand transformed into something resembling a black pebble within minutes. However, it was apparent that the effect was slightly stronger than before. The purplish hue that had been hovering around the shoulder had been noticeably receded below the shoulder. After confirming the effectiveness, Kishir began the repetitive process in earnest. Each time he infused the purification stone with divine power and touched it to the back of Yudhir's hand. The purple specks gradually disappeared downwards, revealing the original white skin beneath. But the pain that felt like a knife stabbing and twisting continued, and as soon as Yudhir's forehead and back were drenched with cold sweat, flecks of sweat could also be seen on Kishir's forehead as he continually exerted his divine power. If you keep gritting your teeth like that, you'll hurt them. Better to talk about something. What should I talk about? Kishir picked up a new purification stone and spoke again as Yudhir responded a little late. There must be stories that couldn't all be written in the report. For example, stories about an awakener named Nahan who had illusion abilities. Kishir continued as he infused the purification stone with divine power. Or the political situation in the East as seen from your perspective, or stories about the Apeto and the Diarca families. Anything will do. If I start now, it will sound too disjointed. Wouldn't it be better for such a report to be received separately later? Due to the pain that surged from sparks from time to time, Yudhir's response had unwittingly slowed. Despite showing an astonishing lack of distress or discomfort on his face, pain was still pain. Kishir managed to muster a quiet smile as his assistant, who seemed accustomed to enduring pain. Why waste time like that? I'll filter it out myself. Just go ahead now. With that, Yudhir couldn't argue. Despite the ongoing pain and tension that made his head increasingly numb, he rummaged through his mind and finally started to speak about the topics he had intended to bring up. The suspicion that Nahan was more than a mere bandit, the powerful illusion ability that he had which could kill people without any visible attack, the need to investigate the strange research taking place in the Apeto castle, and even the conversations he had with Zakheles Harton. As those sporadic words flowed out unchecked, Kishir used a dozen more purification stones.